Well, hi there, Global Church family. Welcome back to the ongoing conversation about international missions here at Fellowship Bible Church, where you get a front row seat to see and to hear what God is continually doing through our church and through our global partners as well throughout the world. My name is Ben Sanford, and I'm excited to be hosting this for the first time, and relieved that the first time is two good friends of mine, Joel and Rachel McManigle. So thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Part of it, yeah. So a lot of people who are listening to this probably would have heard your first or your last podcast that you did with us, which was in September of last year, and that was at that time you were headed to Thailand. The whole content of that conversation was, we're getting ready to go. Here's what we can use prayer for, things like that. Obviously, you're here. So for I would assume that most people listening are aware of kind of the story leading up to that, but especially for people who aren't. Can you just talk us through, what kept you here? What all happened?
Yeah, so in September, Rachel at that time was still pregnant, and we had a doctor's appointment, kind of the last one before we were supposed to leave, and an ultrasound, and the doctors said that the baby was not growing as he should. And
how far along were you at this time?
I was 26 weeks pregnant.
Yeah. So, that was quite concerning for us, for the doctors, and so we made the call at that point to stay in through the birth of Ezra. So he ended up being born November 20th. He was 6 weeks early, and just itty bitty. He wasn't growing. So that's what kept us here and why we're still here.
So if you don't mind, I kind of want to walk through that story, because I feel like for me, it's been an encouragement to just hear how the Lord has worked in your guys' lives through all of that. So I'd love to share some of that, if you're okay with it, with the rest of our congregation. Yeah. So you find this out in September, right? And you already have visas by that point to head over?
Yeah, that was a really difficult thing, how that all worked out, because in August we were trying to get visas and unsuccessful. At that time, they just were not issuing the visas, volunteer visas that we were trying to get. And so we found a different visa type that was kind of just a shot in the dark. And we applied for it, and God miraculously provided those visas. It was a brand new visa. They had never done it before. It was a 5-year visa, which is also unheard of. Sure. Typically, they're 1 year. So it was just an absolute miracle that we got those visas. And the day that we renewed Micaiah's passport to get her visa was the day we found out that we wouldn't be going back. At that point, we had visas. Yeah. And, the Lord just said, not yet.
So what goes through your head when that information hits? I mean, because if I remember right, up to that point in August, there was some stress figuring out, like, okay, how are we going to make this work? The method that we had in the past, that worked great for that time. Now we're running into issues. So you get all of those details worked out, and then here we're confronted with not only the difficulty of we probably now have to stay, but now you're scared for this little baby's life as well. What is going through your head in all of that stuff?
Yeah, it was such a roller coaster because, there was a stress of trying to get visas. We finally did, so that was a big high. And then we found out we had to get Micaiah's passport renewed, so that was a little bit of a stressor. Yeah. We got that, and saw the Lord's provision in that. And then we got the news with Ezra. So in a lot of ways, it was confusing because it was like, what are you trying to communicate to us, Lord? Like, we're ready to go back. We're excited. You've provided these visas. But then, the news about Ezra changed everything and totally put our plans on hold. So we wrestled for a good bit there because, not only were our plans put on hold, but then, like you said, we were nervous for Ezra too. We had appointments every week, and each week it was like, okay, what news are we gonna get? Is he gonna have to come this week? Thankfully, he was very active, so I was feeling movement in my womb, and that was just so reassuring. But there was a possibility that, he wasn't gonna make it. That was something that we had to wrestle through as well. So it was just a very stressful end to the pregnancy. So in some ways, we weren't going back yet. It should have been a time of rest, but it was not restful in our minds. We were really struggling with the Lord, just with him allowing that. But jumping ahead then, once Ezra did come, we just saw so clearly why we needed to be here. And, had we gotten our visa sooner, we could have been in Thailand by the time we got the news about Ezra. But as it was, we were able to be here and receive the medical care that he needed and be surrounded by family and our church and our friends. And God really provided in that way.
So was that a satisfying thing to your hearts then, or was there struggle even after that of why the Lord allowed some of that to happen? And you're so focused on, we're headed towards this ministry that we feel like the Lord has laid on our hearts and provided every step of the way for, and now that's delayed for a certain amount of time. Did that continue to be a struggle for you, or was that okay, we understand where he was, why he was doing some of that stuff?
It definitely was a struggle for many weeks and months, I would say. At the time, I definitely would have categorized it as cruel.
Sure.
Because God miraculously provided these visas and we were going back. And then all of a sudden, no, we're not. And it just felt like a bait and switch, just something cruel and evil. And I remember a week or so after all of that took place, during that time, the church was still doing communion every Sunday. And I was sitting in church and just thinking through everything that happened. And, God, I know you're not cruel, but this sure feels cruel. Yeah. And so what is going on? And so I'm sitting there in church holding the communion and thinking how cruel God is. And I was like, what? this And it dawned on me that Sunday, just like, wait a minute. Yeah. I have a relationship with God. He sent his son to die on the cross for my sins. That is not a cruel God, that he would adopt me and redeem me in that way. And so even though these circumstances I'm going through, God is far from cruel. And even though I don't understand why he did it that way, and so I think over the course of weeks and months, it was still hard, and just needing to remind myself of who God really is. But then it's interesting coming out the other end of it, just realizing, oh wow, here we are ready to go back, and we have our visas, and we don't have to go through all of that. Sure, and we didn't have to go through all of the difficulty of applying for visas, and it's quite a hassle. And we didn't have to worry about that at all during the time that Ezra was in the hospital, and that was taken care of. And so again, I don't know that I'll ever know fully why God worked it that way, but I definitely see some blessings in it.
But it really was a process of reorienting our minds of like, okay, our circumstances do not feel loving, do not feel good, and yet who is God and who does he say he is, and are we going to trust that and take him at his word, or interpret who he is based on the circumstances that we're in?
Yeah. And in a very twisted way, I guess, to our thinking, or not natural maybe is a better way to say it, it seems like those are God allows those things in order to bring that truth, to settle our hearts on that he's good because he says he is, not because of. So as all of that is happening, I'm assuming there's conversation with your church in Thailand that you're connected with, who are good friends of yours, who you've built relationship with for the past 4 years. Are they, what is happening from their end? Are they struggling with the fact that you're not coming back, or just supportive of you do what you got to do kind of thing?
Very supportive. I was supposed to preach at the end of September.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
I quickly let them know, hey, I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
And yeah, all through Rachel's pregnancy, they've been praying for us, and we've been updating them, each week kind of how Ezra was doing. And so, yeah, they were very aware of what was going on and very supportive, and just looking forward to when we could go back.
Yeah. Was there any, as you're here, then for an extra few months, was there any concern as far as relationship building on, like, from your end, as you're thinking about, hey, we're wanting to continue to pour into this church? Was there concern at the delay there, or do you guys feel like, yeah, these are the kinds of people that we can pick up right where we left off with?
Yeah, I definitely think we can pick up where we left off. They have a weekly prayer meeting, and we are on there as a prayer point every week. That they're praying for us and thinking of us, and if they don't hear from us for a period of time, they're reaching out to see how things are going and stuff. So yeah, I think we've been able to maintain that communication as well. So
Yeah, that's super cool. So then your kids, they're obviously walking through all of this with you. How did they from the get-go of we're ready to go back, and I'm sure there was struggle with that, to, okay, now we're staying here for a time, and even now you're looking towards heading back again. What has their experience been like with this whole thing?
Yeah, that was another piece that felt cruel and in the moment, because in September they were excited, they were ready to go. There was some hesitancy with, we're going to miss our cousins, but for the most part they were looking forward to it, and there was a readiness there. And I feel like the longer we've stayed, that's kind of cooled, and now there's more hesitancy and less excitement. But that's just been an area that we've had to trust the Lord in, and trust their hearts to Him as well. But yeah, it is kind of funny, because when we talk about going, sometimes they're like, but are we really gonna go? And we're like, yes, we're going. Like, we're going. It's just not in the time frame that we expected.
We joked about, I was thinking about this today, that when you guys were going the first time, I joked that I was actively praying that you would be held back for some reason, that you wouldn't get your visa.
So this is your fault, Ben.
Well, I have not prayed a single thing. I'm just staying away from anything involving you guys until you're over there. And then, so we'll be praying for them as well. So I'd like to talk a little bit about, so then Ezra's born, and you guys are in this situation where he's having to be in the hospital for a certain amount of time. Can you talk us through a little bit of what that looked like and some of the things that the Lord kind of taught your hearts through that whole process, which I know was a roller coaster for you as well?
Yeah, so a little bit of the situation. After he was born, he was admitted into the NICU, and it was the day after their flu regulations went into place, which meant that only Rachel and I could go in. So that in and of itself was quite isolating, because only us two could be there. And so if we are there together, then our older two kids are with somebody else. Which, they have grandparents and aunts and uncles and friends and stuff that they can be comfortable with. But as parents, we have this ideal of what our kids need. And it's not living in the hospital and and our kids only seeing one parent at a time and spending so much time away from home and not as a family unit. So that was quite isolating. And the same with, and then on the flip side of that, with Ezra in the hospital, we couldn't physically be there 24/7.
Sure.
And so often what our schedule looked like was Rachel was going in at 8 in the morning, and then at 6 p.m. we'd switch, and then I'm coming home at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m.
Yeah.
But regardless, we are at whatever time of day or night it was, here we are walking away and driving away from the hospital, and our child is still there. And that just feels wrong. And leaving the house, just about every single night that I left, our older two are in tears. Just, do you have to go again? Do you have to go again? But then they also realize why I'm going. They understand that, but it's still hard. And so that feels wrong, leaving there, but then leaving the hospital felt wrong too. So it was definitely God bringing us rock bottom, bringing us to the end of ourselves where, I'm driving away from the hospital. Lord, this feels wrong. I should still be there. I should be picking him up when he's crying and holding him and taking care of him, but I can't. So I need you to do that. And then, leaving our kids wherever they were, it's the same thing. Like this, Lord, this is not what I want to provide for my kids. So provide for them where I am lacking. And just entrusting their hearts to the Lord, because there was a fear too that, how is this going to affect especially the older two long term? And just trusting that the Lord has their best in mind as well and will provide and protect them.
Sure.
In ways that we can't. And so, that was just a daily having to, put our kids and their hearts in God's capable hands.
And did you see him provide for that? You know what I mean? Like, I think, I think we often know the right things to say to the Lord, but the practical, you're being forced to actually live that out. And all throughout Scripture, we see examples of as his people trusted him, he showed his faithfulness to them. Were there kind of hallmarks throughout that time where some of that stuff was really evident to you? That like, Lord, this is tough, and we don't like it. Our kids are struggling with it, but we're seeing you actively provide for us and take care of us in these ways.
Yeah, I would say for me, I was in the hospital for a week and a half prior to Ezra being born. And during that time, I felt like the Lord really shored me up in his word. And it was through music I was listening to and the times that I had in his word. And those were things that he kept bringing back to mind during my drives to the hospital and different things. And just the assurance that he was with us and that he was good. And passages like Psalm 23, he's our shepherd. And it's not our circumstances, but God is good because that's who he says he is. And that's the one thing. Like, we're not promised any outcome in the situation, but that we're promised God's presence and his love and his goodness to us. And it was really through his word. And then he was faithful to kind of bring that, to circle us back to that, because it was exhausting and we didn't have, tons of time where we were pouring and investing in ourselves or our kids or anything like that. It was just kind of survival mode. And I'm going to jump ahead in the story a little bit. Ezra did go home for 2 weeks, but then he was readmitted to the hospital. And the next day, we'd gone in the middle of the night to the ER, but the next day, Joel was at the hospital with Ezra, and I was preparing to go in and switch off. And Micaiah had been working on memorizing Psalm 23. And so she's like, Mommy, I want to tell you I got it. I want to quote it to you. And that just ministered to me so much. She didn't know what she was doing. She was just wanting to quote her scripture that she'd memorized, but it was just such a sweet reminder from the Lord in that moment of like, oh, we're going through this again. Like, we thought we were over this, and here we are, we're back in the hospital. And just the Lord is our shepherd, and even when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we're not going to fear because he is with us. And that's just what we had to keep coming back to.
And did you see him take care of your kids as well in that time? Like, you're away from them for a lot of times. So was it in their struggle, did you find hallmarks of his faithfulness with regards to taking care of them? You know, because you're entrusting their lives to him in those circumstances as well.
Yeah, the story that Rachel just shared about Psalm 23 was, I think, a good example of that, where we felt like we needed to be ministering to our kids' heart, and yet God used our kids to minister to our heart, and it just really highlighted the fact that, God's got them as well in his hands. And another situation with all of that was that it was over Christmas, and Christmas Eve, Christmas Day was kind of the last push to get Ezra home. And so we had long conversations with our kids leading up to it, and just, hey, let's hold off celebrating Christmas to when Ezra gets home so that we're not having to split up and go to the hospital and stuff. And that was hard for them to wait. But being that Christmas Eve and Christmas was kind of near the end, because of the circumstances, we had made the decision to both of us stay at the hospital overnight, over Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and the following day, the 26th. And so the kids were with my parents, and I just remember talking to my mom several times and just, okay, how are the kids? And
because we felt awful because we did not see our kids on Christmas Day. Our two older kids, we did not see them all day.
And each time I talked to them, my mom was just like, they're having a blast, they're having so much fun. And so that was just so reassuring that we knew our kids were in good hands, but how were they feeling with it? And they truly did have a blast having a sleepover with their grandparents and hanging out there. And we were able to celebrate Christmas after Ezra got home. And on that day that we did celebrate, Micaiah comes to me and said, I'm glad we waited. And so that was just, just really thankful that, the Lord took care of their hearts and then allowed us to see that he was taking care of them.
And he really used our family. It just took a huge burden off our shoulders to be able to walk away and know that they were comfortable and they were being taken care of. And Micaiah even said to me, she's like, Mommy, I'm glad that we were in Thailand when we were going through this, because I don't know what I would have done, but I was comfortable with Mimi and Papa and aunts and uncles and
and their cousins to be able to hang out with. So Ezra's home now and healthy, growing, and cute as a button. So now you're headed over, correct? You've got the visas and you've got tickets for mid-April?
End of April.
Okay. So what does, as you're kind of prepping to go back, I assume there's excitement for that. So then what does that look like when you get back? Are there kind of, is there a direction that you guys feel like you're wanting to head? I know when you came here at first and gave a presentation, it was kind of like, we're focused very much on building a relationship with this church because we want to partner with them to reach their own people, right? The Thai people. But there were kind of a bunch of different options, if you will, for routes that we can head and just looking to the Lord for some of that. Has there been any clarity on some of that over this time that you've been here, or are you still kind of having to read the situation when you get back?
Yeah, there'll definitely be a time of looking to the Lord as to what's next, and what we'll be doing long term. So there hasn't been a lot of clarity in that.
We won't be stepping into something right away.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. So when we were our first term there, the focus was building relationships, learning language and culture, and we've finished the formal language and culture study. And so, yeah, as we go back, those options that we kind of shared at the Global Missions Night, those are all things that we're thinking about. But the one thing that immediately, we're just going to be plugging back in with the church that we were a part of. Yeah. And from there, be investigating and looking into different options as to what the Lord would have us do. And all of those things that we had shared, they're not mutually exclusive either.
Sure.
And so, like one of the options that we have before us is to be teaching at Ethnos Bible School that is there in Southeast Asia, and they have students that come from many different unreached people groups. And so one of the unreached people groups that we had talked about, there's potential of, through that Bible school, as we're teaching, to be discipling and to training up leaders that would be involved in planning a church with that unreached people group. And so, we're just excited to see how the Lord will use the church that we're a part of, and use those relationships to really equip us to do ministry with these unreached people groups.
Is there any apprehension to returning? Any things that you guys are just not sure of? Feel like you're now having to turn your attention to? I mean, language and culture would be an example of this, right? Where you spent 4 years learning that and kept up with it, right? You were still taking classes while you're here, but now you're going to be jumping back into that after having been in American culture for 6 months, 8 months, or whatever. Is there a learning curve would be the wrong term, but is there is it difficult to jump back into that way of thinking? Or are you anticipating it?
Maybe I'm naive. But a lot of language and culture is location-based.
Sure.
And so, you arrive back there, and a lot of it you just switch gears, and a lot of it just comes back. At least that's what I think.
What would be some, just for people who haven't experienced another culture, or especially been over to Thailand, what would be some examples of major cultural differences between them and us that would be natural to you living here, and you're kind of having to relearn some of that?
Yeah, I think like time orientation is super different. Like American culture is pretty structured. Like I know that hit us when we came here. We are pretty spontaneous after living overseas, and so it's like, oh hey, let's hang out this afternoon. And it's like, well, no, let me see what I have on my calendar for next month. So those kind of differences. We're probably somewhere in the middle. So over there, it's much more spontaneous, and you might plan to go to an event at 10 o'clock, and being the good Americans we are, where we show up at 10 o'clock, and things might not get rolling until like 10:30, 11 o'clock, and that's all normal. I would say we're pretty used to it, but if you're not used to kind of going back and forth between cultures, that would definitely be a stressor.
Our friends there, if we invite them over for dinner at 6 o'clock, they often will ask 6 o'clock Thai time or 6 o'clock American time.
So they're aware of it. So what would 6 o'clock Thai time be? Are you expecting 6:30? Or, I mean, how do you even prepare for?
It can be 5:30 to 6:30. Like, it can go either way. It's just, whenever things kind of wrap up for them, whatever they're doing wraps up, and it's
Then they'll
around that
wander
time,
over.
then they'll come over to the next event. It's
Sure.
event driven, so it's like, from one thing to the other. And
So in our culture, if you're having somebody over, there's kind of this pressure to, like, say you're having somebody for dinner. There's a pressure to, okay, we told them 6:00, so dinner needs to be almost ready at 6.
Yeah.
We need to have it kind of on the table at 6:05, sort of thing. What does it look like for them there? If they're showing up at 5:30, obviously you're probably not ready yet. Is it just more, like, what's the cultural pressures there that you would find that are unnatural to you?
Our language helper and her family, we spend quite a bit of time with them, and they'll invite us over for dinner, and they'll say, 5.
Are you having to guess then what time to go over?
Well, they'll say 5:30 or whenever you want to come,
Yeah.
and so we'll go over around 5:30, or we know it doesn't really matter when, and so oftentimes we'll show up, and they haven't started dinner.
so I have learned to eat a snack before I go, because so many times I'm like starving by the time like 8:00 rolls around and we're eating.
Yeah.
So they eat dinner pretty late there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah. Was that hard to get used to?
I don't know. We both grew up there,
Sure.
and so
Yeah.
I think we're very go with the flow, and like some of it we hadn't experienced before,
Sure.
as adults.
Yeah.
But yeah, it, like Rachel said, it happened once, and so then the next time, Rachel ate a snack before we went over there, and
and you knew.
Yeah.
Just adapted. Yeah. Was there reverse culture shock when you first came back? Like, having been used to Thai culture now for 4 years, which I imagine, especially growing up there, you get used to pretty quick then. Yeah. Was it a struggle when you first got here to kind of come back into an American line of thinking?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it caught us off guard. I think we were expecting to kind of go in between worlds pretty seamlessly because we've done that our whole lives. And it was a lot harder for us. Mm-hmm. And we never really put our finger on what exactly it was. Mm-hmm. But it definitely was weird.
Yeah, and I think for me, I'm able to go with the flow there. Mm-hmm. But here, I feel like if you're going with the flow, then you're holding people up, and that gets quite stressful. And because it is faster paced and it is more busy, and you have to be on time, and it's a lot less loosey goosey.
Sure. Yeah. So, Rachel, what's the situation for those who are aware of all that? There's been some health issues with your dad, and that was part of the reason you guys came back when you did. Yeah. Can you give us an update on what that situation is looking like? Yeah.
So an example of how things don't go according to plan in a positive way this time. Kind of my mentality of coming this time was to say goodbye to my dad. He was diagnosed with glioblastoma 2 years ago now, and he has outlived what the doctors expected. So praise God for that. Yeah. He has had surgery and chemo and radiation, all the kind of first line type of stuff that the doctors had planned for him, and they kind of ran out of options.
Wow, yeah.
And so what he's doing right now is something called an Optune. He wears electrodes on his head all the time, and it sends an electrical current through his brain, which sounds really scary, but he doesn't feel anything, and that has kept his cancer at bay.
Really?
It's not a cure,
sure,
but as long as he's wearing it, the cancer so far has not grown. So he's been wearing it for 3 or 4 months now. So we're just really thankful that has bought him more time, and we're really thankful for the time that we've been able to spend with him this year. That is one thing with going back. I don't know what that looks like. We'd love to have them come out and visit again, or we just don't know, but we praise God for that different outcome than we had expected. So yeah.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
So with you guys now heading back, what does the next few weeks of prep look like for you?
We putting stuff away, putting stuff in our attic, going through stuff, packing up our house.
Are you planning to take trips to see people?
We actually are leaving Thursday. Rachel's grandfather passed away just this last Wednesday. So we'll make a trip out to Indiana on Thursday for the funeral. And then come back, finish up packing up here. And then April 16th, we'll drive out to Indiana again to see Rachel's parents and spend Easter with them. And then drive on to Illinois where my grandmother is. And then fly out of Chicago. So
it's coming quick.
It's coming quick, yeah.
Yeah. So for those of us then who are with you in all of this, what are things that you're wanting prayer for that we can go to the Lord about?
Yeah, I think the logistics of packing up is up there because we have a little baby that we're trying to do all this around, and he's wonderful, but sometimes I feel like all I do in a day is feed him, and then I'm like, what happened to the day? So getting packed up feels a little bit more challenging this time around. But then also for our kids, it's been a year of upheaval for them, and it's another transition. So I think I'm anticipating that's going to be difficult.
Sure.
But we're able to look back and see how God provided for them last time, and we're confident that He is going to do that again. We just don't know how or what that necessarily looks like. So I think those would be the main things. But I did just want to say, as we've walked through the last few months that have been really difficult, something that's been a gift in that has been being able to be here at FBC and to be loved on by the body. We don't like to be in that situation. As people in ministry, we're used to being on the other end of that and giving, and that's where we feel comfortable giving our time and pouring into other people. But we have just been on the receiving end this time around with people bringing meals and praying for us and sending notes of encouragement and giving gifts to help cover medical expenses. We have just been blown away by how the body has stepped up and loved us through this time. So we just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, we do love you guys. What about for you?
As we arrive, just that the Lord would continue to lead and guide our steps as to what ministry will look like long term, how involvement with the church there will look like long term. We're kind of anxious to see what the Lord is going to do and what ministry we can step into full time. But I also don't want to step into anything without the Lord's direction. Sure. And so, that's a huge prayer request, that we would be patient and sensitive to what the Lord has for us, and that He would continue to raise up people, relationships that can help direct us in that ministry. And as something that has really been a burden for our hearts is just the local church there, that the local church would grow into maturity. And I think we have some things to offer, but as they are maturing, what they have to offer us in terms of helping us to reach unreached people groups is huge. We are way better off with the body of Christ there, going with us. It's not, FBC is sending us from here, and the body is sending us and supporting us from here, but it's the local body there that is continuing, that next step. And so, exciting to see how the Lord works and uses that, because it's a culture where everybody is very busy and striving to make ends meet, and so what does ministry look like for them as they are working 6 days a week?
Sure.
And many of them even 7 days a week. Is it just normal? And so how how do we encourage and spur them on to maturity when they are so busy as well? So that's something you can be praying for us for as we go.
For sure. We, as much as we're with you and behind you guys, you know this. I've said it to you, but you're definitely missed when you're gone. So in 4 years, hopefully we'll see you again real soon.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for listening and praying for Joel and Rachel, being part of today's episode. If you want to learn more about our global church partners, make sure you check out the Mission Stairwell in the North Main entrance. Each month, the Grace Ministry of Global Missions highlights a different global church partner, and this month we're highlighting Hanson and Jocelyn from India. A lot of us have met them. So you can find info sheets about them and their specific ministry in that stairwell, and you can find prayer requests, activities for your kids to be involved with there as well. We also want to just give a quick plug. On March 23rd, right, we have a send-off for Joel and Rachel in the hospitality suite at, do you remember what time it is?
After second service, I believe.
After second service. Yeah, right after second service in the hospitality suite. So if you'd like to be part of that, sending them off and hear about what the Lord is, hear more about what the Lord is laying on their hearts as they head over there, be sure to show up March 23rd. So as always, thanks for watching and listening, and remember ultimately that it's Christ who is continually building his church until we all attain to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God. And we're glad to be a part of it. Thanks, guys.
Thank
you.
you.